Yo, 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 everybody. Keith Ferrante here with my fabulous son,
What's up, y'all? My name's Micah.
Micah Ferrante. We are just having a series on family. Who knows? This might be the new thing. And we are just, I was over in Cabo last week with my wife, and I was laying there in bed, and I just said something to the Lord. I said, Lord, I just want to enjoy my family in this season. And when I said that, there was a dragon eye that opened up in the spirit next to me. I know that's kind of strange, isn't it, guys? You're listening in on this, but it's like a vision. And it's opened up, and I'm like, wow, this is, something. And it reminded me of, a dragon that has, in a movie, when you get close to the treasure, then there's a dragon there guarding it. And it's like, I think there's a treasure in just enjoying the family and enjoying the dynamic. And so we've been super passionate about this for many years. I remember even traveling to I was traveling all around the world for quite a while. And then the Lord was like, global reform starts at home. And you need to really have you need to focus on home, especially when your kids are small. I remember once when I was in England and my son, you were I don't know how old you were, Micah, you were maybe 10 years old or something.
Barely remember.
And you were like, man, I really miss you, Dad. And that really gutted my heart. I'm like, I need to be home more, make it a priority to figure this out, because when I was growing up, like, okay, you could pastor, or you could, maybe the next level if in the pastoral world was like travel and speak and write books. So I had pastored, then I started traveling, and I was doing that all the time, and eventually it became like a full-time thing. But I began to think, I don't know if this is the way forward, because it's affecting the family, and I think family is something Heather and I, and then our family, we want to keep as central. And how is it for you, son, growing up in a preacher's home, in a home where I'm a prophet, we're preachers, we travel, we speak, this and that. How's it been for you in that journey?
For the most part, like, it's been fun just getting to be a part of some of those trips. Like, I've been like on some of the trips that I used to go to, like to Fiji and to all these different places, South Africa, and got to just be a part of that and like be in the mission with you guys when you guys are traveling. But obviously you used to travel on your own sometimes, like you go on trips, and I would be at home with Mom and Macy, and that was a fun time. Like, but yeah, I would miss you for sure. I mean, what son doesn't miss their father when they're away for a while? But yeah, I mean, I guess there were challenging times, like missing your parents, wanting to spend time with them, do things for fun, like especially at a young age, like when you have that connection, and it's so rich in connection.
For me, I know this is strange, but I never thought of myself as like being a pastor with like kids that are like preacher's kids. Because when we grew up, it was like, yo, you're a PK, you're a preacher's kid, you have issues. I enjoyed being a preacher's kid myself. I think I did see the hurts that my parents went through, and when churches tried to, different people tried to, like split the church or this or that. So I think in regards to the church, maybe I didn't enjoy that part, but I actually seemed to enjoy the overall experience when I was young. When I got older and I looked back, then I started going, okay, I need some healing here, I need some healing there, I need some, like, how's that been for you in your own journey? Do you consider yourself a preacher's kid? And even though I've been in business now for the last years, like, how do you see yourself? And just for the audience, these are not pre-thought up questions. We're just in the fly. So he's hearing this question the first time. I just want to hear it.
Yeah, being a pastor's kid, isn't always the easiest thing. A lot of
So you
people.
consider yourself a preacher's kid?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
oh yeah,
Wow. Wow.
from the get go. But I mean, obviously, it's changed throughout the years. Now it's like goes from like pastors' kids to prophets' kids
Wow.
to now it's like you're doing different things in government and other areas. So it's like changed a lot. But as a pastor's kid, honestly, my whole walk with the Lord and everything has been impacted by my parents because they have stewarded things well and I was raised in a good environment. Like a lot of pastors' kids, and this was me too, but like I feel like I didn't have it as much as the pressure, like to try to do certain things or perform a certain way. But it's like oftentimes you would have more pressure as a pastor's kid because there's so high expectations of you, like to be like your parents or to fit in or whatever it looks like. And so like even doing certain things would be challenging at times.
Was
But
there any like people that would actually say something to you about, hey, you got to be this way. Your dad's a pastor, or was it a little bit more subtle, like in the expectations
it
to be a
was it
preacher's
was more
kid?
subtle for sure. I mean, that was such a blessing not really having that thrown at me because I know a lot of people that do have that expectation, and then it's really hard. Even their journey with the Lord might be challenging after that because there's such high expectations for the pastors, and so it's like whenever the church sees the kids, and maybe the kids are not living the best life or not following the Lord or whatever, it's like that's been a blessing because I've been raised in an environment and there's been some journeys, there's been some things that have been challenging at times, but for the most part, it's been a really fun experience with the family and like getting to be on trips and getting to go places and like grow up and do things together instead of like my dad's at the church and I'm at home like on the sidelines. It wasn't really like that. Like it was like I was a part of the journey. I was a part of like being the son. Like you're always like, son, like do you have anything here? Blah, blah, blah. Like you'd always include me, and that made me feel more comfortable in things and more yeah, just more included.
I know you've talked about when you went through high school and then sort of a turn of events because you were planning to go to like college or into business. I remember you were talking about business all the time. I'm going to go into business or college, and then I'm like, well, maybe I don't remember exactly how, but I was like, maybe you should go a couple years and go to like a supernatural school and get some good foundations in the kingdom. And even though you've been raised in our house, so as you went, and so you went to Bethel for 3 years, and I remember a few different times you would say something like, okay, people know me as the prophet's son.
Mm.
And like how was that for you?
I feel like that kind of was a bummer at times because I was like, I felt overlooked as far as
Hmm.
it was like, oh, you're not seeing me as me, you're seeing me as my dad, like almost, or like you're wanting something from my dad, so you're connecting with me. I would have people that would come up to me and they'd be like, give me a word, or this and that, or can you connect me with your dad? Can you do this? Oh, you're Keith's son, awesome. And like, there's a part of the legacy side of it that I would receive in the inheritance. And I'm like, yeah, like that's my dad. And I got a lot of open doors because of that. I got to be a part of a lot of different teams and things that many other people maybe wouldn't have. And it could have been anyone. But it's like because my dad had those connections, I was able to step into the inheritance. But it was challenging at times. But like as I kind of redefined my love and my like just the gift of sonship in Christ, like those things kind of brushed away after. It didn't really affect me as much. Like I would feel the pressure of that and like people's words and be like, "Oh, you're the pastor's son. You're this." Like, "Oh yeah, I know your dad." And at times it was cool, but then there was times where it's just like, "Oh, I wish you would know me for me. Like I wish you would see me as who I am." And people did, and I feel like throughout my 3 years of school, like that changed every year, just got better and better as I was, more firm in my identity, as I was, coming closer to Christ. in different ways,
So
growing my journey.
it's not a perfect journey because that's,
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about this part of things before. We talked about it when you were more in Bethel. We were talking about it, just kind of navigating it. And it's like, I remember I was like, son, just, I don't want you to have any pressure because you're my son. And what's a strange thing is I never consider myself a famous prophet, even though I've been in that world for like 25 years. So I was always surprised when I would hear somebody actually knew me and knew you in that context. For me, it's just like, oh, I don't really even think it's like really, you're just doing your thing. A lot of what I do is behind the scenes. But then it's interesting how that could be a shadow that tries to come over you when you're over there, which of course always made me, I wanted you to get the benefit from being in the relationship with me from more of an inheritance. Hey, maybe there's some open doors that'll come because you're connected, but find your own way. I want you to find your own way. And I'm enjoying that. And I remember a word, one prophetic gal told me a couple of years ago. She's like, Micah, there's something unique that Micah is going to step into. It's going to, honor the Lord and everything, but it'll be a little bit different than what the family is doing. And that gets me excited. And I've tried to not put like, hey, this is how you have to be. You don't have to be anything that we are. What we mainly want you to have is just the values that we've carried. We want you to carry them, the loving God values and loving family values and having an entrepreneur spirit. Like we want you to carry those things, but we want you to have your own way in that. And the cameraman is asking a really good question, which, by the way, the cameraman is my awesome second son, my son in love, married to my daughter, Macy Landon. So he's asking a good question. How has it been coming back home after being gone, after being at Bethel for 3 years and reintegrating? That generally the question. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a journey for sure. I think after living on your own for 3 years and then coming back into your family's home, like especially since we're both so like we have our own opinion and ways of how to do things and when to do them. So it's like at first it was definitely an adjustment and it was challenging because I would come in and I would have a certain way I would want to do things and you would want to do it differently, and then sometimes we'd clash.
The young lion and the older lion.
And the old
definitely happening.
And it was totally fine. And I
came back. I was like, "Was this gonna work?"
I understand it, and I feel like even over the past like year or so, things have gotten so much better. Like now, it's like having my responsibilities, having these things that I'm doing around the house. That's just expected of me whenever I do it. And it's like, and then we connect a lot. We'll hang out. We'll jump in the jacuzzi. We'll do all these fun things together. But like before, it was different because after coming from Bethel environment and like coming into a new place, I didn't grow up down here in Southern California. So coming down here was tough, and like going through a lot of transitions and trying different churches and trying to figure out what I'm doing here. And then on top of that, being in the house with my parents, which isn't a bad thing, but it's like my dad and I both being so intense sometimes in how we communicate and do things, we'd often clash, and then that would be a point of growth to where we'd come in closer. And every time we'd have an argument, every time we'd have something, and it wasn't often, like it was, every now and then, but like when we would have that, it would bring us closer to each other and to the Lord. And we might have to take a little time from each other for like, a couple hours or maybe the day. But like after that, it was like, oh, like, yeah, like that was my bad. Like I forgive you. this. And we would just come in close. And that's like the beautiful thing about family is like it's not perfect. And even when you have close relationship with each other,
we're both strong feelers.
We're both feelers.
We pick up the atmosphere in the house. We can tell when the other person's tense.
Oh yeah.
And I do think we've had a good journey of learning how to give each other the space, because we can go from 0 to like 100 in a secend.
Oh yeah,
and we could,
it's the prophet in us, just the slice, cut someone's heart deep right away, and then it's hard to get back from it.
And learning, going all the way to the very edge of the the slice. Just you can start saying the worst things. You can just put ultimatums out there and just so yeah, learning then say sorry and then getting better. I think we're getting better and better at okay, like you were going through something recently and I'm like, and I feel it, I can tell, so I could want to poke in and try to figure it out. And I start trying to go in just a little bit. And if I can tell you're not ready, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to just give you some space. And then, I remember once when you first came back home after being gone for maybe 3 years, and you came back home, and I would kind of go right into, how you doing? What's going on? And you were trying to figure out how to, figure out Orange County and how to live here. And it was challenging for you at first. And so I could tell, it's pretty obvious it wasn't always easy. And sometimes I'd poke in. And then I remember once you were like, Dad, I'm not one of your clients. I don't need you to be my consultant right now. And I remember, of course, that's a little pokey on my heart, but I appreciated that. It's like, you're right. Okay, it's good to recognize the difference between being a consultant and being a dad and being a father. And we've even talked and said, okay, son, do you want me to be a dad right now or be a father right now? And there's a consultant side of me and there's a counselor side. So we've tried to navigate those a little bit and learn. And I think we're doing a good job. I personally have appreciated us getting to know each other in this season out on the other side of high school, because I remember high school was tough for you. And you were like an emotional roller coaster sometimes in high school. And I remember Dano, okay, now you never heard of this, but Dano, I was telling Dano about this once. I said, Dano, man, saying something about what was going on with Micah, and just, you were in basketball. If you were doing well, you're on a high. If you weren't, you're on a low. It was like, it was tense sometimes. And it was like, you're like me in that way. Your emotions kind of live, the emotions are right there. So everyone sees them. And it's like, I remember telling that to Dano once, and Dano was, I think, three boys. And Dano was like, oh, no, this is normal for boys. This is 100%, boys are that way. And it kind of helped me. And then, but so I wanted to have a season outside of high school where we could kind of feel like like we've had a lot of conversations where you had to put out some hurt that I had done to you in high school. So like even being back home after college was great. I feel like we've had a lot of inner healing, and then I've gotten to see the side of you, another side, like we've kind of worked through some healing stuff. And I feel like that, I always tell people, like, first season is life happening to you, but second season you got to get healed. Third season is like, what's my destiny? Fourth season, what's my legacy? And I'm like, a lot of people jump right into the third season. They don't take time for the second. So I feel like us being able to have a couple years that, you're at home and us get to work through this, I've thoroughly and felt like it was a benefit and enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've definitely, just like you said, the process definitely has been real to me as far as kind of doing my own thing for a little bit in school, like 3 years journey, living away from home, kind of discovering a deeper sense with the Lord and with family and friends and all these things. And then finally, when I felt established, it was like finding a new thing, because it was like I was in a bubble. They call it the Bethel bubble. It's like when you leave the culture, it's like there's nothing else that's like it. And so you have to bring the culture with you. So it's like, and the great thing is that obviously growing up with the fam, it's like we all have the same values and beliefs. So it was easy to step into that way, and like in terms of like the spiritual side of things. But like the adjustment and the healing process of, coming home and, having a tough day, and then dad's like, how you doing, son? And this, and it's like, that wasn't wrong, but there were times where it was like, oh, I want you to be more like, if you could just listen to me and wait to speak into me. Because it was like, I was processing so many things and I was trying to heal in some ways. And like, I remember there was even a time where there was like a big thing that had happened between us. And I remember you telling me like, hey, I think this book would be good for you. And you had me go through this book, and it was like a workbook, and you walk through, and it's all about like father wounds basically. And there would be things that were in there that I didn't even know were there. And I would read it, and I would be with the Lord, and just kind of think about, past memories that I've had, like with you and other people, and maybe it's another father figure in my life that there was something that was said that hurt me, and it's like processing those things and healing, and then coming into the connection side of things, which is great. Like we would always, and whenever we'd have like a big fling like that, like it might be harder to connect in the moment, but we would always be like, let's do something fun. Let's go on a bike ride. Let's like play some Nerf guns. Like let's do something together to like kind of lighten the load a little bit, like loosen it up. And then
That's
like
good.
when we would do that, we would be able to connect because you're laughing, you're sharing a good time. Like maybe you have some food together, and then it's like, oh yeah, for sure. Like I definitely was wrong in this way, and we would communicate in our hearts, and it was like a healthy process of now it's like gone from the healing side of things to the other side, growing into discovering your purpose and then moving further, which I feel like I'm in. Like right now it's more the step 3-4 kind of area for me, at least. Like there's been a lot of transition in this past season, there's been a lot of family stuff, but now kind of getting to the other side of it, and like seeing the breakthrough in the family, and like everyone else like in the family is getting so much breakthrough. Like Macy and Landon just got a house, which is freaking awesome. Like mom and dad have been traveling a ton, like going to different places, and I've been here like growing community and like with church and this place called Circa Riders, and just having so much fun. But it's been a process, and like we don't want to move past that,
Yeah.
So
I love this. It's been a good conversation. We're gonna we'll have another conversation about. I want to go into like how this hearing the Lord and stuff, and how you kind of journeyed in that. But I was just, there's some good keys that were mentioned there. I think in the journey of communication and healing. I recognize this as much as Mom and I try to do a good job being present for our kids and being present for you guys, and that there was going to be wounds that you guys would have from us, because there's no perfect person on the family. Even though we were like being trained by some of the best relational coaches that of our day, I knew it's like, you know what, we're just gonna need time to get into some stuff and get our hearts healed. But if we can do it earlier, then you don't have to carry wounds in your 30s and 40s. And I remember even telling my daughter, it's like at 15, I'm like, hey, I'll pay for you to go to counseling. And it's just, I know there's going to be some wounds with your father. And so just go. And like the first year, it was all about dad wounds. And then I remember once she came home and she was like, oh, today we were talking about something with just her. And I'm like, finally, we've gotten through the dad wounds. Now you can get healed. It was just, instead of like, okay, dad hurt me here, dad hurt me, it's like, okay. And I kind of felt like, it's like, that's all right. I used to watch the older parents, older people like feeling really bad that their kids had hurts with them. But I'm like, you know what? I think it's just normal. I think no parent is perfect. Every parent does the best they can. They all fall short. Kids fall short. But I like what you were saying. The process is we'll try to resolve it together. Sometimes we got to go away and talk to the Lord. Sometimes we need to have some fun because we can't quite figure it out yet. But we're trying to keep the connection alive. And then eventually we can come back together and maybe heal together, pray, say sorry, say I forgive you, and then kind of move forward. And we have learned. I feel like we're doing a good job in doing that. And so I'd encourage you guys with that, whoever's watching this. And there's hope for any relationships, and relationships can be rich and wonderful. And like Micah was saying, it doesn't mean that there's not some tough moments. But we just got rid of like, this is about perfect relationships. There is no perfect relationships, but there are loving relationships. And I think that's the goal, not perfect relationships, loving relationships, caring relationships, committed relationships. So I bless you guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed this conversation. If you've enjoyed it, let us know, and put some questions in the comments. Like, what would you like us to talk about? Because we're going to be just continuing talking with different relationships in our family and just different dynamics, and just want this to be a blessing to you guys. Thanks for being on this call. Son, we'll do a call again. Call! That is our perfect line. That's our what is that? That's our handshake.
From a movie.
That's from
Movie reference.
All right. Peace out.
Peace.
Talk soon.